can create a calm in every type of situation. It can create stronger, we said, emotions in the proper way in life. It doesn't make you a dud. Some people think if I totally surrender everything to Kadosh Baruch Hu, then I'm just like a dud. That's not true. Try it and you'll see it'll become even more powerful. The life itself will be more enjoyable because you're going to experience it from the proper way, the way Kadosh Baruch Hu, who we know loves us and wants the best for us, and he's the greatest father that one can have. We're living with that perception, that eyesight. We've been discussing sugya for a long time, and for those who are really in it, it's an amazing avoda, and it's hard, not bad. We don't like to define hard as bad because that would be wrong. Just like hungry doesn't mean angry. We discussed some of these sugyas. It's hard to be so mindful, to be so focused, especially when there's so many things in life going on from so many different areas, to try to, put together and to hold of the bitachon and the hishtadlis and that whole combination, which you need both to be able to live life with bitachon, with the calm. The goal of bitachon, you have to have that proper balance of bitachon and hishtadlis, and that becomes sometimes difficult, and people need chizik. So what's my hagdama? So I've thought about this in the past. We even tried a little bit of a WhatsApp group at one point, if you remember, in the past. It's funny, people are listening to these shiurim. People are starting from the beginning. So I'm getting calls. Yeah, I'm on Shir 6. Do you have that, that paper that you once, spoke about? I'm like, that was like 2 years ago. Now, sometimes I do have it, but somebody asked about that chat. I don't know if anybody remember that chat that we made? That you probably don't remember. A long time ago. Like, is that chat still going on? I'm like, no, it died a long time ago. But something that I thought about, and then somebody was being more of me, I was thinking about it. One of the most powerful ways in terms of person working on any of them, just in life itself, is when you have a group that's working on something together. I think that's pretty obvious. I don't have to go into that. Right? Having a group to work on something would be considered hishtadlus. I think, right? The Kadosh Baruch Hu wants us to trust him, but it's hard work, and it's, sometimes we're not sure of ourselves. And if we just leave it up to our own minds, sometimes we get lost, or sometimes we make the wrong decision, sometimes we're more pessimistic, whatever it may be. And it would be very helpful to have a group where people can be mechazik each other. They could speak about their personal situations. It's not proper for every single person, and some people it would, not be allowed into the group. But for most people who are regular people who want to work on themselves, it would be very, very powerful. So I thought about that in the past, and I can't wrap my head around the next step, which is how to actually go about that. I'm more of an ideas person, not the executor. I start thinking about people's schedules, all this stuff. So I don't know if we have to discuss it now. We can, we don't have to. I think it's so important that it would be kedai to spend this time discussing it maybe, or afterwards. So first of all, group setting. So I'll just tell you a quick story though. So this was right before Pesach. Someone was really speaking to me about it, and I was really thinking about it, but I know it's the truth, and it would be amazing. I couldn't wrap my head around the next step. Like, how could we even go about this? Maybe we should, take a break and just do it here during this time. I was going back and forth, like, we didn't finish the Sefer yet. What about all the people? There are people who are listening. People contact me from all the other places. It would behoove that they'd also somehow be connected. So I couldn't figure things out. After Pesach, the person who was being or this group, Inyan, he says, "No, what's going on?" I said, I don't know. I'm not sure how to go about it. Maybe I'll speak about it at the Chabur and see. I got a call last week, before last year, 2 Fridays ago. Not last Friday, 2 Fridays ago. Guy says, listen to the shir, he tells me a whole story that happened with him and something that happened that he called, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm not getting into the details of that now, maybe for another time. So we're discussing, he tells me he's living in Florida, and there's a whole group of people listening to these shiurim and also working on bitachon in general. And he was just telling me, they made a group where they have chavrusas. I forgot, I have to bring it in. It's based on a program that's used in the world. I don't want to, like a sobriety partner. I'm not sure if I know this. It's like 6 questions You're supposed to call to a friend every single day. Anybody know about this?
Check-ins?
It's like check-ins, but it's a certain script that you read every day. It's 6 questions and answers, and 2 people do it, back and forth, speaking about the issue, affirming that they want to work on it, speaking about situations that happened during that day. It's a whole program. And it was like amazing. I'm thinking about how I'm going to work on bringing a group together. I can't figure that out. And this guy tells me they work on chavrusas. It blows my mind because that's much easier to accomplish. To have 2 chavrusas working on it. Point is, we're holding now, if anybody has any ideas, if we could discuss for a minute, group would be very important. I've heard many people say they want to have a group type of session where people can speak, and there could be a moderator, people can mechazik each other, and then on the side there could also be chavrusa type check-ins where 2 people work together just to mechazik each other, just to get, be talking on their mind every day, and it will eventually, through this, it'll grow in a very, very strong way. We could discuss it later. Is that okay? Good. So we should discuss this. Maybe nobody here cares about it. Nobody wants it. That's fine. There are people who do want it. So we will, for all those who are out there, we'll continue this conversation. Okay, with that, page 215. So last week we discussed a few things. One of them was discussing how a person with bitachon should never be working today because of tomorrow's worry. That's what we want to try to rid ourselves of. You're allowed to work today for futuristic needs. Right? We're normal. We have many needs. But not because we're worried of the future. It's a big difference. Planning, healthy, happy, confident with HaKadosh Baruch Hu that He'll provide for me when I need. I could work today with the thoughts of tomorrow, but not from a place of worry. That's what about bitachon. We're all in different places, and we all have to know ourselves and try to work on that. But that was what we discussed last week. So on page 215 on the bottom, he says, so he brings here, just as he relies, right, 215 on the bottom, just as he relies, this person, the Baal B'tachon relies on the Kadosh Baruch Hu to lengthen his life, right, laharich lo, so too he relies upon him, a Kadosh Baruch Hu, to provide him with food and livelihood for his lifetime. The Baal B'tachon, just like he goes to sleep at night, right, pretty well confident or happy, calm that he's going to wake up the next morning. He's not thinking about it. He's not worried about, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't go to sleep tonight. I'm not sure if I'm going to wake up the next morning. It seems like the Baal B'tachon, right? He goes to sleep happy. So too, he trusts that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will provide for him also his livelihood, food, all the necessities, just like sleep is a necessity to fix, right, to replenish one's bodily needs. So too, he also simply, happily trusts that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give him everything he needs, his food. So the question is, we also go to sleep, I hope. I think normal people go to sleep without really too much worry when they're going to wake up the next morning. I think that's pretty safe to say. Yeah, most people go to sleep that way. So the question is...
Well, if you don't wake up, then you just don't wake up.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but how did you go to sleep, though? You're right. But you're not worried before you go to bed.
Right.
We're excited to go to bed. So then why is it? So what's the difference between us and the Baal B'tachon? What is it about the livelihood and the food that's different? Listen, we go to bed. We all know. If you think about it for a minute, we have no control when we're asleep. Right? You say Hamapil. That might be your last bracha. Wake up in the morning. Modani Geval. Thank you, Kadosh Baruch Hu, because I might not have received life again. But yet we're not so worried. Most normal people are not worried, not anxious, not stressed out before they go to bed. But you wake up the next morning and the day starts, and then the livelihood and the food and all the other stuff starts to come in. Well, just like we trust going to sleep, so why not trust for the livelihood as well? Why are we so worried? What's the seemingly obvious answer?
Control. Well, it doesn't affect me. I mean, in this world, it doesn't affect me. If I don't wake up, it doesn't affect me.
That's what's going through your head?
No. It's
very high level.
No,
you're not thinking like, you go to bed.
It's just common. It's common to go to sleep and wake up in the morning. So you're not thinking about it. Worried about
Sleeping is relaxing and waking up.
Yeah, but you might not wake up in the morning.
So what?
But you're expecting to.
Yeah.
First of all, it's become an expectation.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think yeah, that's part of it for sure. What we want to get back to is also we were discussing the past few weeks is that when you go to sleep, it's out of your control. There's nothing you could do.
Right.
Yet in the morning when you wake up, I think I control what's going on.
Look, during COVID, when people were going on to a ventilator, there was concern, right?
That was a wake up call, I think, for some people.
People were concerned that they're not going to be able to come off.
They're not going to love it. That should have been a wake up call in the world of bitachon.
That's different. I'm sorry. I'm holding by my nekuda. That's
one?
different than not waking up. If I'm going to sleep, I'll know that I can worry about the children the next day and what's going to be with the money and the business and this and my learning and all these different things. But I'm not going to sleep. On behalf of my family, I don't. But on behalf of my family, I might worry that I don't wake up. But of myself, if every should decides to take me out, I'm not finished. I'm doing what
I know, but you're not thinking that. It's true.
But I'm okay. So even worse, I'm not thinking at all.
Right.
People don't.
Right.
People don't
So
typically
now
It's
you're not
typical.
thinking at all. So then what is the difference? You go to sleep at night, you're not thinking at all and you're fine, but the next morning you wake up and you're so not fine.
But because the things that let's say if I let them affect me, if I with everything, they affect me that day that I have to deal with. It's not good. It's yes, we talk about. But the thing is, the waking up part doesn't affect me. It just doesn't.
Good. Because during the day, we think we have control over everything. Because there is the avodah hishtadlus, and we make a mistake thinking that hishtadlus, which we all believe in, we all do, we have control over that. That's what it seems like. But do we have control over anything really?
No.
Nothing, no outcomes. And every outcome, remember, depending on how much bitachon you want, what's considered an outcome? So a person might think, we've discussed this, we're just chazing over, outcomes, like you're working on a big deal.
Outcomes, right?
No, yeah, I know, but what's considered an outcome? Not the definition.
Outcome is anything. My ability to pick up this cup of water is an outcome.
Right, so this is what we learn in bitachon. Outcome doesn't mean, or it could also mean the end of the story, whatever the story is. Or you could break it down into a million outcomes. Like we discussed this with the alarm clock, if you remember, that was right, you want to wake up in the morning to get to shul, but before you even, which you can consider as an outcome, right? I want to go to sleep, get up in the morning so I can go to shul. That's an outcome. Therefore, I have to do my hishtadlus and trust that HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows that to be. But there's 1,000 hishtadluses before you get there. You set your alarm clock. Did you go to sleep on time? What was your stress level on that day? There's so many things that are happening in between, and that's why you have to always be every moment of hishtadlus has to be with a bitachon right on top of it. Right? You can't. A Baal bitachon at the highest level, which we're trying to just understand and get to, is that every act of hishtadlus, there's no exception. Every second of hishtadlus, every moment, every act, it always has to have a bitachon that's surrounding it. Every moment, every step you take, really, we don't live that way, but every step you take has to be with the bitachon that the foot will also land on the floor. We're not going to live like that every single second. You'd go crazy. But in an intellectual, understanding way, we have to believe that because that's the truth.
And appreciation.
The appreciation value of life will go up 1,000,000%. Because then you start to appreciate every single moment. Because every single moment is not about me. It's about HaKadosh Baruch Hu allowing it to be that moment. And then it's not just that, but what happens when it's a hard moment? So I don't appreciate the moment. But if you then use your bitachon, no, this hard moment must be for my best. Oh, we just turned it around. Right? So what we want to do is, again, it's always about this control. We've been discussing this Indian of control. It's first recognize that we think we control. That's the first step. Recognize I think that I can control every moment, every situation. And realize that that's not true. How many times have you told your child, could you brush your teeth? I know the age is here. Just brush your teeth and go to bed. That's never, ever worked. But then we say it louder. And then we say it louder because we're going to control the situation. And then it becomes a power struggle. You try something, it doesn't work, you try again even harder. You try it even harder. But if it's done with any worry, angst, stress, anxiety, then we're not doing the hishtadlus with bitachon. If we're doing it again and again because I think this is the way that the world works, And I think that this is the appropriate amount of hishtadlus. But I'm very calm, and if it happens, it happens. Doesn't, it doesn't. So then you're doing this. You're doing hishtadlus with bitachon.
So why we come when we go to sleep?
We are probably calm when we go to sleep because we expect to just wake up in the morning. Probably.
Because we expect.
That's not the right thing.
That's not the right thing.
I don't think so. Ultimately, even though we all do it, and I'm the same. But imagine we can think before we go to bed. Kadosh Baruch Hu, like with the bracha hamapil. I mean, that's really what we're saying. It's on you. If you want me to wake up the next morning, I will, and if you don't, I won't. And I truly trust.
I think it's more than that. There's the lack of control, but at the same time, there's also a certainty that I will wake up.
No, yeah. Why are you certain you're going to wake up tomorrow morning?
Not just an expectation. I'm certain that I should
Well, okay.
wake up tomorrow.
Oh, I was like, where are we holding here? When we go to bed at night, most normal people before bitachon, we go to bed at night, we're not nervous. Why? For the multiple reasons. Either it's out of our control, we expect to wake up because we've done it, it's happened already a million times. We're certain, whatever it is. The point is, what would be better, and we'll discuss this more on I think the next page. This is an opportunity for us, going to sleep, to try to instill in ourselves the truth, which will then hopefully develop and spread out in our life. What am I saying? When you go to sleep at night, we all go to sleep at night, what is the truest reason that we should be calm when we go to sleep at night? The truest reason. Because I expect to get up the next morning? No. Because I trust that there's a Borei Olam, and if he wants to take me, he'll take me. If not, not. Most mornings, he doesn't. Baruch Hashem, he gives us a new morning. But we could go to sleep at night stam, without kavana, just because we're exhausted, without any thought, which is what we've probably been doing most of our lives, with saying Hamapil and Kriya Shema Mita, right? Even though we're saying it, we're still not thinking. Or what we could do is we can go to sleep with a moment of focus, with a moment of mindfulness, true bitachon mindfulness. It takes 5 seconds. First of all, pay attention to the bracha, but Kadosh Baruch Hu, I'm going to sleep now. My life's in your hands. I trust that if you want me to wake up in the morning, I will. And if you don't, I won't. If you do that, you're going to sleep with bitachon. Versus before, you didn't go to sleep with bitachon. You went to sleep, stop. We're human beings, we go to sleep. Baruch Hashem, we wake up in the morning. But if we start to take the moments to instill bitachon, where it's easy, over time that becomes your operating system. What's the goal here? Is to be living with an operating system called bitachon. Every moment we live, we're breathing emunah and bitachon. That's what everything we've been learning, that Rebbe teaches, Sfarim teaches, every single page of certain it's the same thing again and again and again and again. Emunah, less asr mapanim mineh, Kadosh Baruch Hu is everywhere. He runs the world again and again, right? You see it on every page to the point where it's like, okay, I saw this already. Let me go to the next page. We have to let it in. How do you let it in? Doing something lamaisa, which takes moments. Moments. Go to sleep before you go to sleep tonight with a little bit of kavanah. Just like anybody who learned Bilvavi knows that he spoke about in the beginning, waking up. That was his inyan, waking up with a Kadosh Baruch Hu. When you say Modani, take a second and actually believe Modani Lifanecha. We already do everything in the world properly. We just need to add the mindfulness. Intention. We're already doing it, which is the funniest thing. Everything that we really want in life, a happy, healthy, calm life, we're already doing all the things we need to do. That's done. All we need to do is the easy part in a certain way. It's just have the intention, the kavana, the machshava of what we're already doing. You go to work, you're already working. You already are the vessel for parnasa. So just do it with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh, I'm going to work today because this is good for me to help me in my growth and my moon and mitachan and all my avodas Hashem that I need to work on. And I trust that if I'm supposed to make whatever I'm supposed to make, I'll make it. And whatever I'm not supposed to make, I won't. Day in and day out, you're already going. You just add a little Shaar Habitachon, kavan, a little meditation, right? Mindset. Day in and day out, then your operating system will totally change. That's right. When we do something again and again and again, it becomes a habit. If bitachon becomes our habit, you're now a Baal bitachon. It'll be your speech, it'll be the way you think. You will be calm at all times. Right? And then we will start loosening our control, or our what we think is our control on life situations. And that's where the calmness, the tranquility, the simcha can flow through. We prevent our own simcha sachayim. We prevent our own enjoyment. The only enjoyment we can live with, the only simcha sachayim we can live with, is in this moment. I cannot live now in next moment's simcha. I can't live now in yesterday's simcha. I can live now with simcha. Sometimes looking back at old pictures brings me some simcha, but in the now. Sometimes thinking about a futuristic event that's going to happen, it gets me excited, but it's now. Ultimately, everything has to be now. But when we don't live with bitachon, and we're nervous about the future, and we're worried about, or feel guilty about the past, or whatever it is, we made a mistake, we're anywhere but now, we can't experience the now. Kadosh Baruch Hu is in the now with us. So when we want to live this life of live in the moment, bitachon is the key. Be in the now. Don't be in the worries of the future. You're going to sleep, go to sleep in the now. Right? Many people, I hear more and more, they're not sleeping well. Many people are not sleeping well. For whatever the reason is. Whether it's stress, worry, anxiety, just their age, have to go to the bathroom, little children, whatever it is. So let me ask you, I'm not asking you, but if you are one of those people, are you waking up cranky? Or are you waking up with calm? See, if a person doesn't work in bitachon, you wake up in the middle of the night, what's going to happen? My whole day's going to be shot. What's going to be with work? What's going to be with davening? What's going to be this? What's going to be with my kids' college education if I can't work today, right? You start to create what? An entire world because of waking up early in the morning. Wake up 2 to 3. Has this ever happened to anybody? You don't think?
I suffer from that. I don't wake up cranky, but I'm just, I'm shot. You're so tired, you can't function correctly. And you can't go back to sleep.
That's unfortunately the situation. But are we fighting against it?
Giving up.
Do we become negative?
No, of course, I've surrendered. I've given up.
But there's probably a time in life you didn't.
About 10 minutes ago. No. Yeah, that's also probably. No, I'm telling you.
Of course.
Probably about 6 months ago. Baruch Hashem. It's hard, but I'm.
With the waking up. Because you surrendered to it.
Yeah.
Probably with a little bit talking.
Possibly.
Hopefully, I mean, you're working on it. That's what I'm hoping. Because what we're going to learn look at the next page, page 216. Go to the second paragraph. Kamosh Amar Akasav, Al Tishal B'Yom Macher, Kilo Seidem HaYeled Yom. Amar Ben Sira, Al Tatzir Tzaros Macher, Kilo Seidem HaYeled Yom. Macher Yavo Veinenu, V'nimsa Mitzar Al Olam She'enu Shalom. So look at the translation. As the verse says in Mishlei, do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what the day will bear. I've seen this time and time again. I'm sure we've all done this. You talk like a hotshot, whether it's in a game or something, and then it totally crashes and burns in your face. So be careful. Live in the moment. Don't live in the next moment. But then Sira says, this is the more important part. Grieve not. Okay, what is it? What's the plus? Al tatzir tzaros. Okay, don't worry. Don't grieve. Grieve not about tomorrow's trouble, because you do not know what today may bring. Perhaps tomorrow. Okay, let me translate the way I forgot. We used a different translation last time. Al tatzir tzaros macher. Don't worry about the worries of tomorrow. Everybody has what they could worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about tomorrow's worries. Kilo seidem hayeled yom. You don't know what's going to be born tomorrow. You don't know what's actually going to happen. So if you're worrying today about tomorrow, you're in a bad situation. Macher yavo. Tomorrow's going to come. Veinenu. And that whole worry that you had yesterday didn't come to be. I'm sure it's never happened to anybody before. V'nimtza, and we find mitzstar al olam she'enu shalom. You're worrying about a world that wasn't yours. It's a strong line. I've always picked up on that. For many years I've had this in my head. You're worrying about a world that wasn't yours. Person is worries about tomorrow. It doesn't just go with tomorrow. If you're worrying about tomorrow, guaranteed, 99% of the time, you're worrying about the next week, the next month, the next year, 10 years down the line. Because tomorrow's worry is going to compound. Well, if you're worried about tomorrow, what are you worried about? That there's not going to be any money? There's going to be well, then you're not going to have money in a week, in a month, in a year. How am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to... And then it starts to overtake the entire person's head. Ki'ilu, it's like an entire world on his shoulders. So logic dictates, without bitach, logic dictates that it would be ridiculous to worry about tomorrow. You could do today for tomorrow, calmly, but to worry is pointless. I think that would be in logic. If we could remove all emotion, logic would say that's ridiculous. Why are you worrying? Which is what we usually say to people who we see worrying, maybe a spouse perhaps, where you say, stop it, stop being emotional, it's going to be okay, which is the wrong thing to do when you're dealing with another person. That's just an important midos check. But for ourselves, intellectually, it doesn't make sense to her. So now, I want to bring this back to the sleeping point. We know this. And it could be that we're people who logically keep ourselves in check. You have an option, you have an opportunity to either be logical or to be a Baal Bitachon. Why am I not worrying about tomorrow? It could be because it doesn't make sense to where you've already been trained. It doesn't make sense. Because you live life. Many times it's happened where tomorrow comes and there was no issue. You've already trained yourself. But what we could do to add to our already working avoda of not being worried about tomorrow is, why should I really, really not be worried about tomorrow? Because logic dictates, because we're working with assumptions, we're working with stats, statistics. The emes is because the Kadosh Baruch Hu decides what's going to be tomorrow, and I trust in him always, and I'm also going to trust in him that tomorrow will be what tomorrow is, and I don't have to worry today for tomorrow. So you already are working on this. We're already trying to be calm. That's how life is. We want to be happy. We don't want to be stressed out. We don't want to be anxious about anything. Yeah, we are. But those who are slowly working on it, do it not just from logic, but do it with bitachon. Because the more bitachon you instill during your day, in your mind, will be more bitachon that's in your mind. And then it can spread. It can even start to spread automatically. People have told me that they're working through a certain situation and just something bitachon. They didn't even mean to. It wasn't active. That they were trying to utilize bitachon in the situation, but it just came into their head. Why? Because they're working on it in other times of the day, other times of the week. That's how our minds work. And that calmed them down. And then they didn't have to waste an hour, a day, a week, a month stewing over something that ended up not even coming to fruition. If I hear, now, everybody's different here, I'm not, but let's talk current events. I don't know, I'm not really following, so I don't really know the ramifications, but I know this inyan is definitely an opportunity for people to work on bitachon. What am I going to talk about? Not Eretz Yisrael? Tariffs. All they hear about is tariff. Happens to be tariff. Okay, I'm not even into that. I just thought about that.
It's either tariffs or eggs. I'm joking.
No, but I heard. I was paying for the eggs. People are talking about this stuff incessantly, but are they using bitachon in it? How much worry is going into this? Now, I don't know the lamaisa on the ground, what's actually happening. I don't know. I'll find out, I guess, when I go to Amazon, in a few weeks. I'll see what but...
Well, I have a real situation with the tariffs.
So that's fine, and that might be. Some people are going to be more affected or not.
But I'm not worried about it. I have a deadline on May 5th.
Let's do some group work here. Yeah, hi there.
No, but I really have a lamaisa. I placed a very large order from China with a delivery. They were completing manufacturing on May 5th, and so my attitude was, I don't have a problem till I have a problem, and if I have a problem, I'll deal with the problem. That's how I dealt with it.
That's one level. But what's going to happen when you have a problem?
I'll deal with it.
But what happens if you would bring? But the problem now. Let's say hopefully the problem will never come. It's a shame. But if the problem comes, and it's a big problem. Now we have whatever you're holding by in your logic versus it could be a massive problem. Let's say it's a $3 million problem. I'm just saying.
It's not a problem.
What's my point? Let me make my point. It's very subtle. It's very subtle, and we might. And you're going to say, I was thinking that also, and that's fine. But my point is like this. So you have the tariff issue. You actually have an issue, not some person who's just talking about it, which is whatever. HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the tariffs, or this guy Trump runs the tariffs? HaKadosh runs the tariffs. So therefore, we want to bring him in as early as possible. Again, I'm sure you're doing it.
I did.
But with the D word.
Whatever it'll be, will be. I like it.
Right.
Yeah.
So for some people,
that's the Mishnah. But we're saying is add another.
We want to add a layer, and you're probably, I know you're doing it, but I want everybody to hear. Bring in HaKadosh Baruch Hu with your bitachon as early as possible, so that if big problems come, sometimes it's easy to say, I'm not saying your situation, sometimes it's easy to say, logically, I'll worry about it when it comes. It's logic. I will worry about it when it comes. I don't have to worry about it early. Good. Now it came. And now it's a big tax bill. Now it's big. Now the trade, you heard some, now you have to deal with it. So how are we going to deal with it? Of course, ishtadlus, obviously. But emotionally, how are we going to deal with it? What's the best way?
This is exactly what it's supposed to be. So
we want to bring in all of our bitachon power, which is with dibur, which is with thought, as early as possible. It's very simple, and maybe people are doing it, but
in America, you're programmed, right, to think about the future, like IRAs or different accounts for your kids, put money away for them. It's something that I don't know if you were brought up that way, but I was brought up that way. And also when you're saving for retirement.
Okay.
Retirement.
Futuristic life.
You're
yes.
always right. And if you don't do that, right, you're going to have problems when you pay Social Security tax in order for you to have money later. So there's things that are going on in your life on a regular basis that even if you don't think about it, you understand that there's something going on in the background for something in the future.
Okay.
I'm just saying. So that doesn't fit into the bitachon.
Yosef Hatzadik
why not?
tapped into this in Egypt.
Because why are you saving today?
I know people.
Why are you saving today for something that's going to?
No, Yosef Hatzadik. Hold on.
That's what we've been discussing this whole time. Yeah. I know people. I've spoken to them who are worried that Social Security won't be there.
I understand.
But if I'm putting in now for the future, calmly, because it's an investment. Why is that a problem with bitachon? I'm not saying you can't. We're saying not that way. You shouldn't be doing it because you're worried. Because those people then are going to be worried. I don't know if Social Security is going to be there in 10 years.
So it's okay to plan for the future.
I think so, 100%. I think.
Yosef,
just doing it with.
Yeah.
It's a shtadlus.
Why can't you use a Torah example? Why don't you use a Torah example? Yosef knew that there was a famine coming. He prepared. He put in warehouses. And he stored grain for all these years. I mean, that was called planning for the future.
Well,
he knew of a circumstance that was going to be happening. So you make a shtadlus.
If you want to go I don't have a machlokas, but you could say that was for Egypt. I mean, that wasn't him working on bitachon for us.
But then you could say Yaakov.
No, but
prepared.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing. I think you could. I'm just using bitachon logic here. Bitachon logic is that there's nothing wrong about preparing for the future, but it's not done from a place of work.
No, that's called healthy, normal practice.
When people go overboard, that's where it's care. A person has, let's say, a life insurance. So do you need? I'm just throwing out numbers. I don't know, 1 million or 10 million. I'm saying, some people. I'm not saying numbers. I don't know anything. I really don't know anything. But if a person is doing 10 million because he's so worried, what's going to be? Whether for his family or, I don't say bring the family to this. Let's take that out.
It does. Look on some level. When you look at your bank account and you take a look and see if you have more than $5, whatever the number is for that person, it does give that person a sense of comfort.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
we're normal. It does.
Security. Right. Even though
it's false, security is just such a false security.
Really
right.
It's a fictitious false security because you could have a big number in the bank today, and you have no number in the bank tomorrow,
Full sense of security.
Right. I mean, it does, of course, it does. But that's not. We don't want to base our life on it. I mean, it's true. It does give me a sense of security when I know that I big, and when I don't have big, it. But we don't.
I once said that. I once went to Rebbe with that, and I said to him that this thing at work, whatever case might be, I wasn't working anymore, and I said I guess I had all these years a false sense of security. He really liked that line a lot. He liked that line a lot because it's really the security that you get from all the work that you're doing. That's not where you're getting your security.
And that's what he starts. If you remember, that was all the way in the introduction.
My point to you is beforehand.
Yeah.
Not to make trouble, that's all. But the idea is it's hard for a person to enter into this program of bitachon when we have been taught since an early age to save for the future. Because if you don't save for the future, you're not going to have. You can understand how that could be a steer for.
So let me explain. The bitachon that we're learning is that you can always do what you need to do, just do it with calm. Just do it with a Kadosh Baruch Hu because you trust.
I agree.
So it's not a stira. It's not a stira at all. The classic way people learn bitachon, it would be a stira.
You don't learn that when you're being told to say.
That's true, but that's what we're reprogramming now. That's what we're working on now. The people who learn bitachon, I think, no one's holding anything against anybody. Okay.
But
The
mission of saying here is that tomorrow is not a certainty. And I think that's what you're saying.
Agreed.
So
why are you saving for it? Why are you putting money into Social Security for it?
I think that's where your point is coming from, because this safer
It's
saying
normal.
tomorrow's not a guarantee.
It's awesome.
So why are you worried about your 401k or your IRA?
Exactly.
Wait,
Or your tax.
Don't worry. Yes, don't worry.
Don't say no. Why
We're
are you
missing this.
planning for it? Why are you planning for it?
Exactly.
No, what's the word? Why are you planning for it if tomorrow's not guaranteed?
Okay.
It's a balance.
It's a balance.
Definitely.
Shabbos and bitachon? Yeah.
I'm
But
saying,
at the
you
same
have a
time,
proper
you
bitachon, you take
you have the same confidence that you can wake up tomorrow morning, and hence that's why you're planning for the future, because you have the mentality that you are going to continue to survive a certain amount of time, and if you do, then you want to prepare for the future. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but there's also saying to us here that tomorrow's not guaranteed.
Right.
So.
And that brings us back to what we said when you're going to
I'm
sleep.
definitely lost.
It's not your
Okay. Okay. I hope everybody's good. Good.
Wait, it says this is the future. Don't have any
Self-test.
expectations of the future. So
Huh?
it says don't have any expectations of the future.
Sure. Right.
So how do you factor that in with then
it's hard.
saving for retirement if you have no expectations?
Can anybody answer this question?
Can I try?
Please.
There's two separate points. There's what we need to do logically and planning for the future, and then what's my emotional stance while I'm doing that? How am I feeling about this right now? Am I feeling nervous and anxious or worrying, or am I feeling calm? That's it. Those are two separate things that you need to get clarity on.
Rebbe gave a great cheer.
I think so.
You're
That's it.
feeling calm about it, but you
Tuesdays
don't have.
ago.
It's not a certainty nonetheless.
Nothing in life is certainty. That's what bitachon is.
Exactly.
No? Yeah, good.
Rebbe gave a cheer 2 Tuesdays ago. There's a special.
This is what the group therapy session is going to
that
look
he
like.
learns. He takes with him everywhere.
I didn't hear
He
that.
learns the safer with him. He takes it everywhere.
Yeah.
From,
Which sefer?
It's probably out of print from the Bovavi on Emunah. I forget the name of the
Oh,
sefer. Remember, and he was saying the idea of steers. What we're talking about is a steer. Healthy steers. How is it that the Kadosh Baruch Hu, who's Ein Sof, be inside of us? That's how is that possible?
Okay.
And the answer is it's a steer that I can't answer.
Right.
But I'm okay with that.
Right.
So if you take that same way of thinking, is what we're talking about here. It's a stira in my mind.
Okay.
It might not be a stira in yours.
Okay.
It's a stira to save for the future if you have a moon. But it's a stira that I'm okay with because you have complete. If you have complete faith in God,
Then what?
There's no reason. There's
Exactly. You're good. You're getting to the. That's fine.
Right.
But if a person has a stira and then he's worried about it, that's the problem.
Exactly.
So there's nothing. There's no problems.
Yeah. Can you stop arguing?
I don't know what's going on. I'm not sure what's going on here. I think we're good.
I'm arguing, you know I'm arguing.
You're totally agreement.
I know. I don't. Yeah, everything's good. You got it. It's bitachon. Nothing
I
wrong.
understand. I'm just saying that.
Okay, let's go back.
You can't hold people responsible for having.
Who's holding anybody responsible for
I
anything?
didn't say you did.
Kodesh Baruch? I'm not understanding.
No.
Okay. Right there.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Things like it,
To go weiter, he says something here. You know what? I'll read it. What time is it? Because it might be late.
9:58.
Okay, so I don't want to even read it right now because it's going to create definitely a conversation, and I'm going to want to hear what people have to say about it because I don't know right now what to say about it.
Give us something to think about.
You want it? Okay. He says the next line. He says, "Aval da'agosu ve'evlo, amashu mekatzer bo mechovas aborei u'mishtadel lefro mashi yuchal lefro mehem b'nir'eu b'nistarim." Rather, the Baal Bitachon, we're still in the world of the Baal Bitachon, his worries and grievances, his daiga and his avel, are regarding his inability to fulfill his obligations to the Creator, and he makes an effort to pay those obligations that he's able to pay, both those that are apparent, just skip the non-bold for a second, and those that are hidden. So you have a Baal Bitachon who is worried. Why should he be worried?
Because
Rather, the Baal Bitachon worries.
I can't.
He has worries and grievances regarding his inability to fulfill his obligations to the Creator.
Well, like food for
what
Shabbos
he
or something?
thinks
Or-
the Rebbeinu
doing
Shalom,
mitzvahs, doing mitzvahs.
takes
Yeah, food for
him.
Shabbos. Like,
What he thinks the Rebbeinu Shalom's expectations are of him.
So is that right for a Baal Bitachon to think like that?
Absolutely, because that's the one place where we can actually, where our that will bring us to do something positive. When we're worrying about the future, about physical needs or whatever, that.
Okay, I think you just jumped to the answer that I want to get to. I think we have to build it out, but it would be
that motivates us to, in a positive
so
direction.
that's the goal.
And I would translate evil there as regret. Worry about the future and regret for the past in relationship.
Okay, the question is that he's saying here, the Chovos is saying that a Baal Bitachon should be worried, nervous, sounds like it, anxious, daigo, ve'evel, about his ability to fulfill mitzvahs, his obligation in mitzvahs. Now the problem would be, the question would be, is that you're a Baal Bitachon, listen, trust in Kadosh Baruch Hu, do your shtadlus, and whatever mitzvahs you could do, great. Whatever you can't do, great. Which we learned about a long time ago. So if that would be true, you try your best. So why is he worried? Right? The whole point of bitachon is to get out of worry. So I think here it's still a strong lashon. But what I was thinking was Chaim was saying is that the Baal Bitachon will allow, and then you say this a lot, will allow, I don't want to say bad midos, but midos that we don't usually want to use. Let's say daiga, worry. We don't want to really use it ever, except where it will motivate a person, from Hashem, to then do more mitzvahs. The Baal Bitachon is such a high level that he will take everything in this world. Daiga is part of this world. Right. And if you're normal, we get nervous. But use it to motivate him.
Use it for
because listen, I might not live tomorrow, so let me do as many mitzvahs as I can today. I might not live tomorrow, so let me stop worrying about tomorrow's gashmius worries. But I better be worried about today's ruchnius worries because I'm going to get judged maybe tonight at 2 a.m. So I think, okay, so I guess we're not going to talk about it next week. We just jumped right into it. But I think that's how I was learning it also.
That's so cool.
Anyway, so we'll pause here. If anyone has any ideas about this.
In other words, you're channeling a bit what seemingly is a bad midah.
Daiga, which is usually against bitachon.
You're supposed to use it in this place.
In a bitachon way, right? Because that's you believe.
That's where it belongs.
You believe that a Kadosh Baruch Hu wants you to use daiga.
Why does Hashem
create daiga?
As long as it doesn't bring you to.
That's the dangerous thing, right? So if you're a real Baal Bitachon, you'll be protected for the most part. If you're not, it might. Right? A person who's worried always about fulfilling his Torah obligations. I've spoken to these people. They're very depressed. They're not using daiga in the right way. They're using it in a way where it's making them feel low level. That's why you need to work on bitachon first before you start trying to use all the tools. As they say, daiga is without a beis, right? It says every letter. Everybody heard this. Daiga is aleph, skip the beis, gimel, daled, hey. It's missing the beis because beis is bitachon. That's the famous line. But if a person has bitachon, it's bidaiga. He's using the daiga. All right. Till next week.
This is like Hakol B'Yedei Shamayim plus Miyos Hashamayim.
What?
Hakol B'Yedei Shamayim
Chutz Miyos Hashamayim.
Right here, so this is the same thing. So all the things, all the meters we don't want to use, except in this place. Except in our Avodas Hashem.
In the Avodas Hashem.
We want to do more questions.
Is everybody okay? We're good. Everybody's like,
We're good.
it's subtle, and I think that people, you see how it takes a shift of the mind, and it takes some time. Some with others, some different ways. All good.